I really have the honor of speaking with four very incredible people today, and I hope we're going to enjoy this discussion. So if I could ask every panelist to introduce themselves briefly, and then I have one question which has a one-word answer, which is, what comes to your mind when you think about enterprise tech, unprompted? What's that one word that will come to your mind? So, Michaela, why don't I start with you, please?
Super. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Michaela. I think I've met some of you before. I work for a fashion retailer called CNA. I am head of operations, both digital and operational side of the business. So I'm hoping I can contribute to this panel today in very much that marriage between the two. And I've been in the fashion apparel business for about short of 20 years. So that's a little bit about me. And I live in New York, but work in Düsseldorf, Germany. So going a bit back and forth. And to your question, I'm actually going to say I'm feeling a lot of excitement.
Excitement, that's a good start. Thank you, Michaela. Thanks a lot. Ashok.
Yes, good morning. Ashok Reddy. I'm based here in New York. I'm the CEO of a company called KX. So we actually work with, we started in Wall Street. We help with 30 years of algo trading and using analytics and machine learning to help trade and do that. So basically, we operate in almost 80 to 90% of all the top banks and hedge funds. And we're also expanded now to aerospace and defense. So my background is in enterprise AI. I went back to school a few years back, and being able to apply not just the generative AI, but really what we want to talk about is AI's machine learning and data-driven approaches, and differentiate that between what generative AI is and how do you apply the data-driven approaches to solve the problems. And I think about enterprise tech as complex.
Exciting and complex. I think we're getting there. So good. Thank you. Thanks, Ashok. All right. Turning around, Anshuman.
Yeah, hi. My name is Anshuman. I'm one of the co-founders of a company IS. We help build decision intelligence systems which are very verticalized for businesses, which are very domain specific, leveraging a combination of business knowledge, function knowledge, and obviously data and AI. In terms of my background, I have largely been a consumer of data. And one thing that comes in my mind, because that's how my professional experience has been, that enterprise tech should be always about value and ROI, right? But so that's what we're going to talk about as well. But look forward to this discussion.
So the top word is ROI?
I think.
Or value?
Value.
Okay, very good. I love value. We all love value. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ash.
Hi, everyone. Ash Thooper. I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for ADI, Analog Devices. We are a semiconductor manufacturing company. And some of you, if you don't know about ADI, by the way, our market cap is bigger than Intel. Being in multiple industries, that's my background. Aerospace and defense was prior to this. I was in aerospace and defense. Prior to that, in retail, and then media and entertainment. So, seen a lot of areas in my career. I would say difficult to describe it in one word, but a little bit of chaos, a little bit of excitement, and a little bit of, I would say, value. That's how I would put it. Is the current state.
Thank you, Ash. So I think this pretty much sets the stage for today. I think the four words, exciting, complex, value, chaotic, I think it pretty much sets the stage for today. And it's probably also one of the bigger takeaways we'll probably get leaving today, that, hey, we're still living in this, and we remember this word, VUCA world. It's still a VUCA world. It still has a lot of complexity, a lot of ambiguity. And in the true spirit of learning, we're all in our own journeys in our own companies. So I'm hoping that over the next 5 or 6 hours, we'll kind of all come out of it a little more richer from a thought process standpoint. So with that, I'm going to start with Ash. Ash, I have my first question for you. So there's a lot of jargon around AI, right? I'm in meetings, sometimes I say if I take a shot for every word, every time somebody says AI, I'll drop dead. So that's the amount of jargon we have in the industry, right? Selling orange juice, that's got something to do with AI as well. So that's the reality today, right? But Ash, from where you sit, how do you look at this whole AI first mentality for an enterprise? And in your role as well, how are you living it in your role?
Excellent question there. So I think the AI, let's talk about the AI first, right? I think it's real, no matter what the jargon is, and it's important. It's important to have an AI first thinking. And the companies who are going to break through this mold are the ones that are going to be really, really successful. I mean it because think of it, let's say you have a growth curve, right? What an AI first approach does is gives you, let's say, a lever, and it moves your growth by a certain trajectory. Now, no matter the companies who do that first, no matter who the ones are at the bottom who are not getting that, they will always be catching up, right? And if you think about it, at some point in time, you get there. I don't know when you get there, but even if you get there, you know the companies are always going to be looking to catch up. So AI first approach is important, and I truly believe it's going to be a competitive advantage in no matter who that is looking at, right? In terms of how we are living it through, look, all of us have lived with AI, right? Last 10 years, we are using AI. So AI is not new to any of us. What's new is, I think, the generative AI part of it. Or you call it generative AI or agentic AI, it's probably the same thing. And that is where the C-suites, that is where the board is looking at and saying, how can I leverage that? And that has obviously created the new excitement in the companies, right? That's how I look at it. But fun is still there. I think the basics are still there.
Absolutely.
You still need good data. You still need the right ways to manage it, no matter what you want to do. Obviously, there are challenges on scaling. Today, a lot of POCs, I would say hundreds of POCs are done, but are there companies who have actually put it in scale? I think those are some of the challenges that we are all working through.
Absolutely, and I like your example of the curve you're describing. How do you break through the clutter? And anybody who can break through that clutter becomes an early adopter, or early mover. So you get that advantage.
Correct.
So I think just building on what Ash said, Michaela, I'm going to come to you because I think you oversee a very complex ecosystem, all the way from supply chain, procurement, technology transformation, and everything related to a very complex supply chain in a retailer, which is also being, I would say, challenged by fast fashion, and which is also where I think spotting trends early on, reacting to them, and then forecasting and predicting the volume potential and the whole life cycle is so critical. So it's a very integrated system which you oversee. So we'd love to get your thoughts on how would you think as AI helping you to kind of drive a sustainable advantage, competitive advantage across the ecosystem?
Yes. I think to your point, the across is the key word here. What I ran into, as I joined was that they had a little, what I call the AI addict group. They were sitting and they were doing a lot of little, MVPs, little POCs. And they constantly ran into the trouble that business never really adopted to it. This is great. Business is like, yeah, but I'm more comfortable over here. So across became the key word because it's like, it's great. And they're like, oh, we're only 3, so we're only capable of doing this. So we already started limit ourselves with how we were going to apply AI throughout the organization because it became a tech-driven purpose, value, right? Yeah, we should have AI because we should have AI because it's a thing. okay, you lost the customer there, right? What are we doing? We're selling garments, right? Who is our customer? Yeah, they want to get dressed. They want to have, so it's a lot of education on both sides of the entity, I find. You need to upskill business in what are the possibilities with AI. They need to understand the limitations, the risks, and the potential ROIs that they could gain. But the business sides needs to understand, you can't just start running in certain directions and not understand what is the actual value that we're bringing. So, first of all, bring people together. As soon as you see your organization and your tech team is working separate from your business team or vice versa, you're in trouble. Because if there's something which I'm really excited about is the fact that with agentic AI is finally tech is becoming conversational for business, right? They've never understood what the tech guys are doing on the other side and a little bit vice versa. So I'm really seeing now what I'm asking business is to ask the question, what would AI mean in this context? And often they say, I don't know. But at least the conversation starter is there. So that, for me, is the AI first mindset. And that doesn't mean that the AI is the answer, but ask the question. And how will it contribute? And then lastly, have a very, very, very clear prioritization, because you can start running in so many directions with this. So I think as leaders of an organization, as most of us are here, ask yourself, are you crystal clear with your message? And my thesis is always, if I was a coach at a soccer team and I screamed this out at the pitch, would the team understand what I'm telling them? Do people know what their position are on that field? Like, how are they going to contribute to this? So clarity, prioritization, and keep asking the question, have that conversation. That's where I generally try to implement this now as quickly as possible. Because I think, to your point, the competition is on. And you need to have it broad for it to truly work.
So thank you so much. I think there are a few dots I'd love to connect here. So Ash spoke about POCs, and trust me, we all do so many POCs. He spoke about scaling up, and Michaela talks about business impact. And I think somewhere in this whole journey between tech and business, the link breaks down. So if I have to kind of say, hey, how do we look at, as Michaela said, how do we look at a whole business ecosystem driven and embedded in the business and connected with any POC or scale up which we are working on? And ROI and business value will come. And I think what does happen is once you see an ROI or business value from one project, as leaders, we develop a lot more credibility to go and ask for, you never get a blank check, but kind of a blank check. But I think that's the linkage which really bridges it. So, Michaela, thank you so much for building on that. I want to pivot a little bit on something which is crucial, but sometimes taken for granted. And that's where I want to, Ashok, I want to talk. I want to speak with you. I want to get your thoughts on using. So you come from a background which is very heavy data intensive, right? And at least all of us in the room, we do understand the role of data, the challenges in data, and it's probably the most underappreciated part of our job. I have a data team as well, and it's probably they're the most underappreciated, but one of the most powerful. So, Ashok, a couple of quick thoughts here. One is, how are you driving data as a competitive advantage? Secondly, is there a way how we can start, as Kashyap said, put the thing on the head and say, hey, can we start enabling better data through AI versus vice versa? So help us to kind of, drive us in this journey based on your where you sit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, one of the things what we found, most of the hedge funds and banks we work with, right? The data, one of the problems with many of them is that we are an enterprise. When we talk about enterprise AI, one of the problems is it's more about regulations and being able to explain. So part of it is most of the banks, for example, don't even want to use the word AI because generative AI, they think it's something that you can't explain. So SEC as a regulation, like at the end of the day, AI is what? It's a prediction technology. It's helping you make better decisions. But if you cannot explain how you made a decision, it becomes a problem and you get fined for as a bank. So there are banks, when I did a webinar with NVIDIA and a bank, they didn't want us to use AI. They said you can use deep neural networks, you can use machine learning, but not the word AI. So what that means is, it's really what we have found is data is becoming the strategic advantage. It is the product. It is the algorithm. So what people think about is, we don't just use an LLM and you don't get an advantage, because if everybody uses the same LLM, what's your advantage? So your own data and how you use the data as a strategic advantage, that is one way of saying data is the product, data is the algorithm. So everybody, whether you're in fashion or in any semiconductors, so that's one which is, you want to make sure data quality is great and it's your data. How do you make sure that there's continuously you're developing? People use an approach of what we call AI factory. It's continuously making sure that you have the right data, you're feeding the algorithm, outputs become the products. And you need to have then the feedback loop from experiences, from whether you're a wealth manager dealing with yours. So that's one aspect. So the data as an algorithm, data as a product. And I think the second part is, what I find is how we have been able to bring more of this value is, people are thinking about ChatGPT and sometimes people get confused, some hallucination and other things. But there's just this past week, there was a whole research on University of Chicago did, which said ChatGPT doesn't understand math. It's basically, you're memorizing things, patterns, and using memorization to say what is going to happen. But it doesn't really calculate. So what we find is banks and hedge funds are not going to use it for predicting what's going to happen in the stock market based on numbers. But it can use the patterns. What we are doing is use generative AI to generate a lot of synthetic data. So in order to do risk management, you can simulate much more data scenarios before you can say what's an anomaly. So instead of just finding similarity searches, people are saying dissimilar searches. So that means you can simulate, and people are saying they're running out of data. So now you're using synthetic data. So you can use generative AI based on your own data to generate different type of data. And then making sure that you use generative AI as a way to, what it's happened is AI is because the reason why everybody thinks AI is generative AI is because it has democratized it. Everybody from board and C-level are starting to see, because they think that's AI. I can understand, I ask a question, I get an answer. I can reason about it. But they don't understand why it hallucinates sometimes. So what we need to show is, how do you take advantage of your data? What's the data-driven approach when it's using prediction and when it's actually using math? And then the last part is time. The part of the problem with all the LLMs is they don't understand the concept of time. There's a long memory. So one of the things we look at is customers to say there's different models, not just the transformer models. There are state models now available, which you can store much longer. It uses least amount of computing, which is some of the things we are doing with NVIDIA. So that helps enterprises to get more confidence and help improve better decision making.
Ashok, thank you so much. And I think all of us, I'm sure we know the role of data. Sometimes I feel it's almost good to slow down AI implementation till you have the right data, because generally leadership wants AI, and many of us face that, hey, they've heard something in a conference, they want AI. But as responsible stewards, we almost need to slow down and say, guys, this is not going to happen in 3 months. I need 6 months for data. This is how much it will cost. And I think companies who can do this well, Ash, to your point, will actually break the curve. So it's almost going slow to go fast and get the right data platform versus just zooming into a AI model.
Pankaj, I think there is a balance to that aspect of it, right? There are, for either generative AI, agentic AI, there are use cases that don't have that much accuracy involved, right? For those, you may not need to wait and slow down. But where there is an absolute accuracy required, then you need to slow down. That's the balance I think we have to think about. And an example there would be, if I have to, a simple use case, hey, go in and you and I all have policies in our companies, right? If I asked you what your travel policy is, and would you be able to tell me? No, right? But when we need something to say, I'm booking a travel to so and so country, and I need to understand that if I'm allowed to do that or not, right? So what are you going to do? Go look up your intranet and so on and so forth. But if you put a quick Gen AI agent on top of that, and you can go in and ask, in my travel policy, am I allowed to do that? The accuracy may not be that important in that specific case, right? So you can use, I would say, reasonably good data. But if you are predicting, to Ashok's point, if you are a Wall Street banker and you really need to put and explain the prediction that you just made, you'd rather slow down and do it right, because you'll put the company at risk. So that's how it's a balancing act in my mind.
Thank you, Ash. Really well said, and I think it's low-hanging fruit. It's also, absolutely. I think there's a good balance between low-hanging fruit versus investing a lot on accuracy. So thank you for that. So Anshuman, I want to come to you now, and we've been talking about. Sorry, I'm looking at my watch as well. We've been talking about all the complexities on AI management, enterprise AI, data as a product. And you, from a consulting standpoint, have a very good cross-understanding across industries and across verticals, right? As you said yourself, you were a consumer of data, then you come into a consulting environment where you're helping companies to really, embark on this journey. So based on what your observation is, what is hampering? What are the big challenges which your clients are facing? And I'll build up on what Ash said. Are there some low-hanging fruits where we can unblock the pathway? And are there areas where there's a longer journey? So how do you bring a more industry vertical insight into this discussion?
Sure. First of all, thanks a lot. A very deep question for sure. As you mentioned, being in the consulting domain as a solutions provider, in fact, we have recently we conducted a research of close to around 50 large enterprises, included some of the Fortune 10, Fortune 100 companies in the CPG, BFSI industries, covering AI practitioners, business stakeholders who are consumers of AI and data engineering, data governance practitioners. And I can tell, and obviously, Michaela, you've been part of that discussion, and thanks so much for contributing to those research. There is a lot of dichotomy here, right? And Ash is mentioning about, these things, like how do you kind of go through the clutter and take the growth journey. The dichotomy is, if you look at from an AI first mindset, obviously there are two different kind of stakeholders which operate a little bit different frequency. And that's a reality, we need to agree on that. When we look at a business stakeholder, the concept is pretty simple. It's fail fast, fail cheap. That's the model we are all looking for from a business stakeholder standpoint. Now, when we always look at value and fail fast, fail cheap perspective, there is also a risk that we are looking things from a very myopic standpoint, very short-term standpoint, and may not be taking a very long-term route of what could be the art of possible. It's like living inside the room, but not really figuring out what's happening outside, because the possibility is enormous, right? And as technology leaders, obviously I see, there is a lot of excitement about AI, and that's how the business leaders are also getting excited. So there is a lot of, as you said, a lot of responsibility of using it. So there are possibilities of that, and hence I would like to connect it with the research that on one side, a significant proportion of companies have mentioned that they already have a Gen AI team or an AI team in-house in place to take care of the Gen AI or AI related use cases. At the same time, a significantly large proportion of companies are also saying that there are siloed data, there are distributed data, the data is not connected, and all that. So you can see that both the worlds are kind of talking two different languages. However, the goal remains the same, that we need to, go into that. And I think a lot of things depends on how do we bring that change management into perspective, because it's very essential given the frequency in which both the worlds are operating is slightly different. You need to connect with that frequency and then take them to that journey and anchor them in those direction. And as a part of, you're talking about some of the vertical solutions. So in every business, any decision is, whenever it's taken, it's a multi-layered approach. There are multiple nuanced, short decision-making actions which are taken all that into consideration, and then one is taking an action. Definitely coming from a Gen AI and agentic AI perspective, there is a lot of, like what Ash was also taking, like, saying that if you can have a Gen AI layer, it can actually trigger certain actions, it can ground it, and then it can work like a pretty much like a human assisted, enabler for that transformation.
So thank you so much. I think we're running out of time. Do we have a minute or two for questions? And I know Ash has to leave at 10 as well. So we have 2 or 3 minutes. So if there's a question for the panelist, you're welcome to ask.
A question for her. What are the methods you're using to advocate the senior leadership on AI? Are you demonstrating some use cases?
Yes. I mean, there's a general excitement around AI. Everyone reads about it everywhere. So I'm not too worried about, it's generally on the topic quite often now. And then it's obviously, what are we doing about it? So one example, we talked about it, Ash and I, it's quite funny how we realized we have a few things in common, even though we're making fabrics or clothing and you make semiconductors or but one quick win, for example, we did this fall, and this is more about organizing data and realizing how business contributes now to the ability to build data sets that we can utilize. So one example we did here was we worked very, very sporadic with how we were ordering our garments and so forth. We just made sure that, okay, let's structure our data input. Let's give our fabrics coding. And then with that, we were able to bulk buy fabrics and did a very quick win, in bottom line. And what was really cool with that example was that we had quite a lot of people that helps with the data entry every single day. Our designers, our buyers, they saw that, okay, this takes me more time. I have to do this. But then very quickly we saw, actually, there's a massive gain here. So that's like an example, quite concrete, but that was something where we saw not only the value of having correct data, but also how this can actually then, and we actually were able to utilize models to amplify what fabric should we be buying. So
I don't want to be rude.
I know, Ash, you
I had a 10 o'clock.
Yeah, you go
The
ahead.
decision is simple. Call with the CEO or the panel here.
See you, Ash. Absolutely.
yeah, so that would be an example.
So thank you so much. Ash, thank you. And thank you for all the panelists.